Exciting news from Airpeace. We're taking your London trip to the next level. More pleasurable, convenient, and affordable than ever. From January 20th to February 20th, 2025, you have an opportunity to grab amazing promo deals during our exclusive sale period as you travel in style from January 20th to March 31st, 2025. Economy fares starting at just 1.2 million naira and business class luxury at 4.5 million naira on our Lagos to London routes. Step into elegance aboard our luxurious Boeing 777s and enjoy spacious comfort, gourmet meals, and premium service, all designed to make your journey unforgettable. What are you waiting for? Book now at flyairpeace.com or download the Airpeace app from the Play Store or App Store. Airpeace, your peace is our goal.
This young man, in the past 3 days, has rattled me, has dazzled me with his brilliance. And I just couldn't wait to share this with the world. I have the greatest pleasure to introduce to you an alumnus of the University of Lagos, a senior consultant with Piston and Fusion, Adeola Badmus. Good morning, Adeola.
Morning, sir. It's wonderful to share this space with you.
Fantastic. Well, I don't know if you heard every word of that editorial.
All through. In fact, I'm humbled. And I also, for me, as we read through, it occurred to me that we could use our space better to actually help a lot of people to make the right business steps, and also being able to not just create wealth, but have a sustainable approach to doing things. I did. And I'm most grateful that you have invited me to also try to share some of my experiences in my journey. The truth be told, just like you said, there was something I took out in the editorial, that having a case, using you as a case study of how not to run a business. I think a lot of times we learn a lot about ourselves when things are not working. And through those processes too, we can develop models. And I really appreciate that I have the opportunity to join you on this space this morning.
Fantastic. Just to let you know how bad the situation is. Because my background is in sports. And of course, everybody connects everything I do with this background in sports. And before some time ago, I used to think that I was a superstar sports businessman, to the extent that at the time when they were looking for resource persons to discuss the business of sports in Africa, and they chose different people in that line of business, 5 of them from across the continent, and invited them to the Harvard Business School to come and discuss the business of Africa. I found myself in that audience. And I was there. They depended on me to provide, information and knowledge and so on, thinking that I was probably the foremost sports business person in Nigeria. Whereas after listening to you for 3 days, I realized, and of course it shows in my life, I'm not a billionaire or anything like that. It shows in my life that, the status given to me was exaggerated. I have since discovered that, look, when it is actually business, look, I am nowhere to be found. And that's why in our own climate, in our own space, you don't find many retired famous athletes. And that's all over the world. It's not just in Nigeria. All over the world, who would have succeeded in sport and on leaving sports would also succeed in business. Just as I did, I had no training whatsoever. I didn't think I needed. You live in this bubble. You live in the euphoria of your success as an athlete, and you think you can carry that through when you get into business. But how wrong I was. Now I know better, thanks to Adeola Badmus. that that I've been so lucky to have even succeeded to the little that I've done because your prescriptions, although you were humble yesterday to tell us at a point that even as you prescribed, it is not as if once you do this, then you will become rich and, you become rich and successful. So just speak on that a little, what I just said, particularly about us athletes who were successful and suddenly you go into this business, you have to go into business of some sort anyway, and then you just crash. Why would this be beyond the fact that, we are not trained?
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. Let me first reference that something you said. I think you're actually in a fantastic position to speak on businesses. And I would say that from the Yoruba adage. The Yorubas will say that and the realities of that is that even when you do things that has not worked, the wealth of experience that you have garnered cannot be discounted. And that's the honest truth. So if I were to bring you to discuss or share a space with me, I would want you to focus on the things that you did that did not work, so that those coming behind would not make such mistakes. So, yes, so I strongly align with the fact that you were apt to be chosen as those to speak. But then you could have also, yes, shed light on those things that you experienced, either through the business environment or the ecosystem that you played in. Now, talking about transition of being successful in one spell of work and then into business. The reality is that what I have learned is that you have to grow your business acumen and your business skill. And then you have to recognize that the skill to survive in business is a bit quite more technical than what you would have had in sports. One of the key issues is that business environment is an emergent environment and it keeps evolving. So what works today might not work as well and then what happens is that you have to be armed with certain toolkits. Also in the editorial, you spoke about mentorship. Some people have told this path and they've told it, and then they've also developed models. There are quite a number of models that we have that if we take time to execute them, they do not guarantee being $1 billion or a billionaire, as you have said. But then they help to establish structure that you can rely on. Let me give an example. And one of the issues that usually come up. So when you're starting a business, there are usually 4 key elements or 4 organic functions for any business. Most are very apparent, but then if we take any of them for granted, then the issues start showing up. Every business will have a marketing section. The business will have a financial section. It will have production and operations, and then it will have human resources. Those 4 elements, we call them organic business functions. Now, but most people that foray into business usually have a specialist skill in the operations of the business. So let's take someone that is very good in sewing. Yes, very apt and very adept in sewing. Now the person then says, okay, I want to start a venture to make clothes for people. Now the person is skilled in sewing, but the person is incompetent in marketing, in finance, and in people management. So usually that's one of the key issues that come in. And the person will not recognize that early until they have started. So they will rely heavily on their talent, not also realizing that there are other structures in the business that they need to put in place to help them succeed. So usually, to cap that, I think what is usually the key or the challenging transition is that you have a technical skill, but you also need to have other skills that the business requires. And nobody tells you that. And that's also because our business or entrepreneurial literacy in this part of the world is very low. So that's my take on your question, sir.
Okay, so I am an athlete. I have just retired, and there are tons of us all over the place, not just in football, in athletics, and so on and so forth. And sometimes we have some money, and naturally we just want to go into business. What do we do? Where do we go? Where do we have to go back to university? Do we, we are lost. We don't have that kind of information out there to guide us. What do we do?
Sir, you also recognize this, that we were together for 3 days. And in 3 days, we supplied quite a number of information. Even within the group, people shared different ideas. And those information that we shared awakened something within you, where you said, I've not been doing it right. What I always say is that when you are transitioning from a profession that you have done for so many years, and then you're moving into another profession, I think the starting point is to get yourself educated. That's usually the starting point. Yes. The skills that you will need in that new profession will be totally different from what you have done. One recommendation that I can simply make, and I like the way you have coined it, after when you are leaving sports, you have access to resources. Something I might say is that, yes, if you have some level of education prior to going into sport, I would recommend that you, if you can, maybe do what you call a modular MBA. The idea of a modular MBA is that, yes, it has an academic background to it, but it exposes you to those organic functions I've spoken about. Or look for short programs that helps to educate you. It provides a framework or a formal structure that you can operate with, as against you doing guesswork all the time. So that level of that bit of education gets you started. Right now you have a bit of direction on, there are quite a number of things that I can do now, or I should be doing in 3 days. So if you look for a professional program that provides direction on how to be an entrepreneur, or how to kick off your brand, or how to set up a brand, or how to, then that gives you that opportunity to say, now I know better. Then I can follow this model. Does the model guarantee success? No. But at least it is a model that you can follow step by step, as against coming out and taking a look at your own experiences. It happens to a lot of people too. I used to work for an employer, but then I was lucky with that employer, because what it did was, the time I spent with him, it was more like as if I was in a business. So he pulled me very closely. And maybe if he's listening, and if he gets to listen, his name is Ifeanyiwa Jaku, and I want to give a lot of credit to him for what has happened in my own job. He pulled me very closely. And then as he was running the business, I could see some of the things he was doing. How we made marketing decisions, how we sourced for funds, how we administered our finances, what we invested the money in, how we recruited people, how we ensured that we had the right team at the time. And then the whole element started coming together. Then when I was transitioning to also be starting business, what I did was to also get a formal education as properly in business. Yes. And then combined with Ifeanyi's mentorship and my education in business, I was a bit more better equipped. So I had less failures. I had less failures. So not like I didn't have failures. I had fewer failures in that process. And then I grew in it as well. And I continue to strengthen. So two things I would say is, when you are moving from that one area, look for a mentor, and then also get a formal education that can help you to have a structure that you can work.
Okay, now we are in a Nigeria where most of us are going through very challenging and difficult times. And it's like the atmosphere is that of frustration. It's like things are so hard. And young people are coming up. We don't know, how do we make that choice? Because I'm referring to people like myself in my own field. What I grew up in, spent a lot of my youthful years in, is sport. So how do we make that choice when we come to the point of going into business? How do we make the choice of what business do I really go into now? Is it, I don't know how to make that choice. And beyond that, you know, it is, and you want to succeed. I'm just thinking what happened to me now. You want to succeed. So where do I go to get this education? Right now, I know that I would refer a lot of people, young people, to Adeola Badmus. You say, you know, just go there. But I'm just thinking, there are tons, there are everywhere, tons who need guidance, even, you know, into going into a particular kind of business. When you think, I want to be Dangote, I want to go into oil and gas. How can you just get up and say, I want to go into oil and gas? You know, and I didn't have any training in what choice of business to go into. For young people, we're talking to young people now. You're just coming up and you want to go into business, yes.
So I think it's a good opportunity to introduce a toolkit that has worked for me. And then it's a global toolkit. I am not the author of the toolkit, but it has really worked. And then it's part of some of the things I shared in our time over the last 3 days. Now, there is a concept called business strategy and planning. But then there are so many angles to it. And if you're not careful, you know, just like you said, most people start with an idea, or you see something that you like, or you follow a trend or a pattern. If you are a sports person, most likely you look into sports related business. Um, I look at maybe because it's more prominent. If you look at maybe the English Premier League, and you look at some of the players that played in the English Premier League, you find out that some of them will go into sports journalism. Some will go into punditry. Some would end up becoming football coaches. And then we don't see some anymore. They actually leave the limelight totally. Now, back to the concept of business strategy and business plan. So the toolkit I would recommend when it comes to how do you choose a business or how do you start it is called SOSTAC. 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 The first S in that acronym stands for situation analysis. Then the O stands for objective set. The second S is strategy. The T stands for tactical planning. The A stands for action planning. And the C stands for control. Now let's look at the first part, which is situation analysis, which addresses the question that you have asked. That how do I decide on what to go into? In situation analysis for strategy formulation, what you do is that you want to examine the external environment where you're currently in and also your internal capacities. There has to be a marriage. You shouldn't go into a business where you don't have good strength to execute. So let's take the external analysis under situation analysis. In external analysis, there are a couple of things that you're supposed to do. You scan the business environment. You scan the environment where you're planning to operate. One of the first things you look at is competition. You ask, what are other businesses doing within this area? So you do what we call a competitive scan. In that competition scan, you are looking for gaps that you can fill. And how does that work? If I have, for example, I have an idea that I want to, let's take the example I said earlier. Somebody that wants to sew, or wants to start a tailoring outfit, something not so complex. So you take a look around the different tailors and tailoring ventures around and how they are operating. What are customers complaining about? What are the those service providers not doing right? So you start looking up for the gaps within that particular space. Once you identify the gaps, you could see that maybe people are not, people don't have customizable options. That means when they want to make their clothes and they want to customize, most of the people that are around you are just doing the same style. So you're saying, oh, there's a gap here. Now, once you identify the gap, the next logical thing is to ask that this gap, the potential market I want to serve, do they value it? If they value the gap, then you can now say that, oh, let me see if my own venture can fill that gap. Then we'll go back to the internal analysis. You need to also analyze your capacity and your resources. Do you have the strength? Do you have the resources? Do you have the people? Do you have the acumen to fill that gap? Because if you identify a gap and you don't have the capacity to be able to deliver, then you are going to make a fundamental error, which a lot of people make. You hear this word, I'm sure you have heard it. Oh, my brand, my brand, my brand, my brand, my brand. I'm sure you yourself, you're a brand. But a brand is a promise that you have made to the customer. A brand is a reputation that you have established or that you want to establish. So if I say that I have the capacity to deliver custom-made clothes in a short timeline, if I do not fulfill that promise, then I am going to break the customer's heart. So the summary of what I've explained is when you're starting, you need to look at competition. Who are those doing these things that I want to do? And how do I fill the gap that they're not filling? And then this gap, the customer group, which is the second part I want to speak to, do they value it? You also need to look at the market you want to serve. Is the market sizable? Are there enough potentials in the market? One, in terms of earning potential, then what are their priorities? Sometimes we create products or services, but we fail to look at the customer group that we want to deliver that product or service to. And ask specifically, what are their priorities? What it is that they need? So you also need to do a thorough assessment of the customer group. That assessment can be very detailed, and I don't want to speak too much into that. We'll spend the whole day here.
We are enjoying you.
Yes.
I'm enjoying you, and I know that what you are dishing out is deep, and the young ones must be learning. So please just go on.
Good. So another thing you look at the customer group that you want to serve, and you do an evaluation of that group. One of two key evaluations that I like, although there are 4 parts to it, but there are 2 parts of it that I really like. You do a demographic evaluation. The age group, the status of the people, and all that. But then there's something called a psychographic evaluation of the customer. In the psychographic evaluation, you have to take a close look at the needs and priority of that group. And then you start asking yourself, can I position my products to address these needs and priorities? We are into training as an organization. We recognize that there are different market segments. And we don't try to sell our programs to all the market segments. It's unrealistic. If you take somebody that is unemployed and they are looking at his training needs, you will probably design a training program that also has a job placement service. If you are looking at a corporation, an organization, if I'm going to design a training program for a corporation, I'll probably design a training program that comes with a consulting service. So in the psychographic examination of the customer, you need to also understand, as I said, what are their priorities, what are their needs. There are other evaluation criteria that we can also use. People look at behavior. What are the spending habits of this group? Some people buy not because they need the product. They buy because it provides them status and placement. And you have to take a very close look at that. You are a prominent sport person in Nigeria or expert. And then if they are taking you somewhere, the expectation is to be high. If you're going to sell something, the general expectation is that what you're going to sell would appeal to, as you said it, there's a perception that Chief Shegun obviously will be a billionaire. So if I'm going to approach you, I'm probably going to sell something that fits into the status that you are in. So let me cap up this. If you're looking at how to get an idea for a business, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Although we have what we call disruptive innovation now. But I don't usually sell that because you only see 1 in a million ideas successful when you are trying to push for a disruptive innovation. Do a competition scan. Look at the competitor and the gaps that they are failing to fill. Then do a customer evaluation. Look at the market segment and identify what are the psychographic needs of this group. And then do an internal analysis. Do an internal analysis to ask yourself, do I have the strength and capacities to deliver this? That will be my response to your questions.
Very interesting. And as you were saying all of that, so many things were running through my mind, particularly about the environment that is called Nigeria, this country. There's something about this country. And maybe you understand the country better than, most of us, particularly when it comes to business. I will tell 2 stories, but let me remind everybody that I'm speaking with Adeola Badmus of Piston and Fusion. This is Eagle 7 Sports Radio, and we are reaching you from Abeokuta. We are broadcasting on all social media platforms, and it is broadcast to the world. We are connected to 20 radio stations in the Caribbean, and they are listening to us even as we speak. So we are not really small. So let's talk about Nigeria. Let's talk about this Nigeria. 2 of my own experiences, because it's very frustrating. Many years ago, I thought that I had an unusual experience with a governor friend of mine. He was my friend, very good friend, and he was a governor. And I became friends with the governor because of my fame in sports and all of that. So that's common. We make friends easily. So this governor was my friend. And I had just, not too long after I finished my playing career, and I teamed up with a group of friends who were into publishing. They were publishing specialized books on every state in Nigeria. They will go to this state and they will compile everything about the state, their tourist destinations, their geography, their history, beautiful publications. And so they now made me an offer to convince this my governor friend for his state to publish that book. So I took this proposal to this governor who was my friend. We were chasing girls around together, we were drinking and all of those things. And I took this proposal to him. It wasn't big business. And over lunch, he took a look at it and he said, look, Shegun, I cannot give you this business. That was my first shock. I said, I couldn't give it to you. Why? He said, look, if I give you this business, you have a big name, everybody in my state will start to ask questions. When did Shegun go into publishing? that, you are giving him, there must be something tied to it. So I don't feel safe giving you this business. But if you come up with a business that is related to where people know you for, sports, I will give it to you, even if it is 100 times bigger than what you have just brought. And he advised me, he said, look, after now, anything you want to do, please just ensure it has a link with sports. People would help you, people will support you, and you yourself would be, you're knowledgeable in that field, you'll be able to do it. Great advice. However, I went and designed the first stadium. They didn't have a stadium. So they had one lousy one. And between us, he said, look, come, get an architect, let us use your expertise, design this stadium to fit into this kind of profile. Anyway, we did it. And after 42 trips to that state capital, they gave the job, that same job, to someone else to do. And today, the stadium exists. I didn't benefit from it. And I'm just talking of the Nigerian factor. And even closer home, when the sports, when radio broadcasting started, independent, private radio broadcasting started, of course, they said people should go into it and so on. And I was one of the very first set of people that applied, not for a radio station license, but for a specialized sports radio license. Sports. My radio station was going to be sports. This one is a sports radio station, for example. So I thought that with my profile, with my status, with everything, it was almost automatic that I would get the license. Well, it took me 18 years of waiting. There was only one sports radio station in the whole of Nigeria. I was asking for the second one. And it took me 18 years of waiting before somebody, they just and gave me a license. This is me suffering. And I'm suffering as a result of the Nigerian factor.
Exciting news from Airpeace. We're taking your London trip to the next level. More pleasurable, convenient, and affordable than ever. From January 20th to February 20th, 2025, you have an opportunity to grab amazing promo deals during our exclusive sale period as you travel in style from January 20th to March 31st, 2025. Economy fares starting at just 1.2 million naira and business class luxury at 4.5 million naira on our Lagos to London routes. Step into elegance aboard our luxurious Boeing 777s and enjoy spacious comfort, gourmet meals, and premium service, all designed to make your journey unforgettable. What are you waiting for? Book now at flyairpeace.com or download the Airpeace app from the Play Store or App Store. Airpeace, your peace is our goal.
How is business? You just look for a business in Nigeria compared to business elsewhere. How is, I don't understand. I don't even know the question to ask you. But Nigeria,
so I have the question that
okay.
How do you navigate the challenge in the Nigerian business environment?
Yes.
I think that's where the question is leading to. There is a term that best describes the Nigerian business environment, and that term is that this environment is emergent. Emergent, and emergent means that it is very dynamic. It is constantly evolving. Sometimes we could look at it from different standpoints, which I will use this as an opportunity to introduce another toolkit or two toolkits. And then you will also see something you could have done in those two situations. That's for the governor French and for the license. if you are operating in an emergent environment, that is one that changes very quickly or very easily, then you cannot use a prescribed approach. You have to have an emergent strategy. That will introduce us to the concept of something called scenario planning. In scenario planning, Chief, so when you were saying that, I said you should have made provision that if they don't give me this contract,
yeah,
what would be my strategy? So there is a clear framework that says this. In scenario plan and for business, forward-thinking business, you can't have one strategy to pursue your venture. So you create a quadrant, a square with 4 boxes in it. On the top axis, you state a critical situation that if it changes, can impact the business. On the left axis of that box as well, you state another situation. I will give an example that would help encapsulate this. Then, you then try to say to yourself, if situation 1 changes and situation 2 remains static, what will I do? So let me put that in a proper example. Let's use my business, for example, the business of training. And let's look at a situation that is very critical to what we do. Exchange rate. So quite a number of our adverts are done in dollars. So we require the forex to be stable, but then it's never stable. So exchange rate is one situation that impacts. Another situation that impacts us is the economy in terms of either unemployment and job opportunities. So we have these 2 situations. So if a big chunk of the public loses their job, and if the exchange rate is unstable, we have plans in place to address that. So, if we have a situation, scenario 1, exchange rate keeps going up, and then unemployment rate keeps increasing, that state usually creates an opening for us, really, which we have seen over time. Then it says that when people lose their job, the first thing they turn to is to add to their skill set. So it opens up training opportunities for us. Then what we do is that we need to position programs for that situation. When the exchange rate keeps going up and we pay in dollars, then we say the second situation is that we need to consider using local marketing efforts to get our programs out there. In the case of the governor, you had just one single strategy.
Yeah.
And that was where you were bumped in that transaction.
Yeah.
So the idea of scenario plan is that you must approach most times with a multi-strategy approach. You must have more than one strategy. That if this governor gives this contract to someone else, what will be my alternative? But you didn't consider that.
Yeah.
You went based on friendship and trust, and based on what you just doing yesterday. And then, so my big advice to anyone, if you operate in an environment, so I don't want to speak just specifically to the fact that the guy didn't give you the contract.
Yes,
I want to speak to the ideology that you should operate with.
No, but if I was smart, probably I could have, in your scenario 2, because the guy he gave it to didn't know the job. So I could have also set up a scenario. If he gave it to somebody else, was I ready to go to that person? I'm just saying that could be a second scenario.
So that's the thinking that I'm pushing. That in your strategy formulation, you must operate from scenario planning. If this scenario happens, what do I do? If this scenario happens, what do we do?
Hmm.
So when you operate in an emergent environment where the likelihood of situations change very quickly,
Yeah, yeah.
you must employ a strategy approach that changes as well, that is ready to change. So as against waiting for this change to happen, in your scenario planning, you have positioned that if situation A happens, this is what I will do. If situation B happens, this is what I will do. So what it does is that it gives you cover and it doesn't leave you exposed. So at times, too, some of our strategy will be managed decline. I don't want to speak to that in detail. Now, at times, so you look at that. If the worst case scenario or situation happens, this is my exit in this situation.
Hmm.
So that way, you will not be as burnt as it happened with you.
Do you know you are absolutely right? Just even listening to you now. In the second scenario, in the second instance, when I talked about the radio station, I can already see another scenario. I was stupid. You see, when they did not give me the license, why did they not give it to me? They said they couldn't give me the license in Lagos. I just had it a fixation that if I didn't get a radio license for sports in Lagos, I would not make it. So I just got stuck to looking for a license in Lagos. It took 18 years. But when I was now ready to concede that, okay, Lagos, let me leave Lagos, I automatically got the one for Ogun State, which is, I should have thought of that 18 years before.
Oh,
you are absolutely correct.
So that is, as I said, some of these toolkits, they present themselves in front of you for taking advantage. And Nigeria particularly, you cannot operate with a single strategy mindset in Nigeria. It's too emergent. It's too emergent. It evolves even when you go to bed at night and you wake up in the morning. The situation, the business ecosystem has changed. We are discovering something. So I want to look at some of those factors that you scan for scenario planning. There are some factors that you have to scan for scenario planning. So when you want to plan your scenario, and then there is a name that is called business-wide. It's called Piston. P stands for political environment. We have the political environment. We have the economic environment. We have the socio-cultural environment. We have the technological environment. We have the environment itself, and then we have the legal environment. Pestel is a framework that when you're scanning the environment and you're trying to create different scenarios, you need to scan those things that will pose as opportunities for you and those things that will present themselves as threats. So when you say, I'm planning my business direction, and I want to have multiple scenarios. I want to plan for multiple scenarios. So what you then do is that you say, okay, what is in the political environment? What are the government regulations that are coming up that might impact this business? And then you forecast that this regulation might come up or is already in place. And then when you look at the regulation, you ask yourself, is it for supporting my venture or is it going to affect us as a threat? Once you identify that, you can then plan a scenario to say, if this regulation comes to life, this is what we will do. So that's one. You could look at the economic environment. Things like inflation, rising costs, forex, the growing, the fall and the rise of the naira. You could look at interest rates. When we're coming into 2025, one of the things that we looked at as a business was obviously the inflation that was very heavy in 2024. And as we're coming to 2025, sometime around October, my team and I started discussing, we have held prices for our programs for a while, that we need to increase prices. But when we're talking about increasing price, obviously in relation to inflation, we also looked at our competitors and saw that everybody was increasing prices. That's not the problem. But we also then said that if we're going to increase price, we must create a justification of value for the potential customer. So part of that is that as we scanned that the inflation grew by what, 13% or 15%, we also realized that we needed to be positioned in 2025. Another thing you should look at is socio-cultural pattern. What are the trends that are emerging? We are holding this discussion now through Zoom, conveniently, on YouTube, broadcasted everywhere. Before the pandemic, Zoom was not a conversation. Before the coronavirus pandemic, Zoom wasn't a conversation. But now, if you are talking about you putting yourself out there, you need to look at what's the trend now and what is the pattern? What are people moving towards? So once you see that the trends are changing, you need to also create a scenario plan for that. Then technology. Internet is getting better. I'm talking to you right now like as if you are seated in front of me. Before now, we would have been saying, can you hear me? Can you hear me? The internet is going on. But this conversation has been on for almost an hour. And it's seamless. If you can forecast, AI has come into our business space. What can you do with it? If it keeps growing, what opportunity does it provide for you? And how do you position for that? Then we talk about the environment in part of Piston. We talk about, there are conversations going on now about a lot of things. One of them is sustainability. We have to do business in a way that is environmentally friendly. Last year, the Lagos State government came up with a policy on styrofoam ban, that they want to stop the use of styrofoam for food packaging. Anyone that did not scan that situation and decides to go and invest in importing styrofoam packs from maybe Asia or China will suddenly find themselves in trouble. And eventually, so it becomes a situation. If you're already in the business, you need to say that when this particular regulation kicks into place, we should be positioned for it. If we are using styrofoam as food packaging or low-cost food packaging, you need to factor that in and then make a provision for it. I don't need anyone to tell me that as the Lagos government has moved into styrofoam ban, they are going to move closely into the ban of more plastic-based packaging. So part of your scan is to look at what? Environmental situation, going green initiatives, sustainability, doing business that also does not deplete resources in the environment. And the last part of the test is legal. You also need to scan to look at what? Licenses. You needed a license for the radio station. And there was no way you were going to run that station without that license. So you need to also look at, within that industry, what are those things that I need to put in place? For our industry, some courses need to have accreditation, or you as a facilitator need to have some certification. So, to cap it up, to do a good scenario planning, you need to scan the environment through the lenses of political factors, economic factors, sociocultural factors, technological factors, environmental factors, and the legal factors. That's my response to that.
Wow. Plenty of food for thought. In my editorial, I said I was onto a new mission. Am I thinking right? That I want to expose the students of my own school, which is a specialized school for gifted children. I want to expose them to business. Am I thinking right that young people from age 10, because my school runs from age 10 to 17. I don't know, in your field and all of that, is it
the right thinking?
Is it the right time? And it's not examinable. It's not as if it's going to be in their WAEC, whatever. It's just for the information. Think about it for me, and then, your thoughts.
Exciting news from Airpeace. We're taking your London trip to the next level. More pleasurable, convenient, and affordable than ever. From January 20th to February 20th, 2025, you have an opportunity to grab amazing promo deals during our exclusive sale period as you travel in style from January 20th to March 31st, 2025. Economy fares starting at just 1.2 million naira and business class luxury at 4.5 million naira on our Lagos to London routes. Step into elegance aboard our luxurious Boeing 777s and enjoy spacious comfort, gourmet meals, and premium service, all designed to make your journey unforgettable. What are you waiting for? Book now at flyairpeace.com or download the Airpeace app from the Play Store or App Store. Airpeace, your peace is our goal.
So let me start with a question to you. Is it possible to become a professional footballer by not playing football from ages 10 to 17?
No way.
Then from age 20, they take you to the Premier League. Is that possible, sir?
No.
Oh, so why isn't that possible? Why isn't that situation possible?
Yeah, because you have to be gifted in it first. You have to be grounded in it first. You have to discover that you even have talent for it and all that.
Good. The same thing about business. I told you earlier in our first opening conversation about our entrepreneurial literacy being very low. I have a son, he's 13, and what it happens that during the holidays, he would follow me to work. When we have meetings, he would sit in the meetings with our senior executive, our senior manager. He would listen. He would listen to different things. When we get home, he would ask me, Dad, why did you didn't make that decision? So I would explain to him. I said, okay, why did you give this person a query? Well, explain to him. Then I told the mom the reason why I'm doing this. In his school, his teachers do not have the exposure to transmit that kind of information to him. And that's because they have not told that path. I explained the idea of mentorship and also explained that we need to have some sort of education, business education. When you expose those children early, you're just preparing them just like life as a professional footballer. So you are on the right path. What you should look at is a combination of opportunity. Some of them would go for industrial attachment, even at an early age. Just go to one office, work there for like a week, have an idea. Somebody comes to your school, want to talk to them, give them some exposure. We give them a project to do. Oh yeah, make a basket. Oh yeah, put it online. Try and sell it. Let's help you. Then we expose them to early failures too. Strategy. Oh, you came up with this. It didn't work. On the last bazaar we had in my church, my daughter made zobo and she sold the zobo in front of church. And then somebody swindled her. And then she was crying. And when she was crying, I said, no. It's not a problem. That's not an issue. Now that means you need to ensure that you prepare better. Then my son then said, okay, you know what? Since that church situation was a bit rowdy, that we're going to daddy's office. And then they made zobo for my office staff. They made quite a lot. And then I told them, go and sell the zobo to the different staff. They were on holiday at the time. So my daughter went. I said, go and buy my zobo. The person said, I don't drink zobo. And she came back and said, Daddy, the person said doesn't drink zobo. I said, you have to convince them of the nutritional value of zobo. And then, even if they don't drink, tell them that they can buy for a family or a friend member at home to show love. And then they went. They brought 16 packs to the office and they sold 14. When they got back home with the money, we're in the room together. And I asked them, so what do you want to use this money for? So my son said he wants to add the money to a game that I've promised him. I said, And I was beginning with poor business decisions. He said, well, I'm not even saving any money for the next Zobo. You know this Zobo that you make, it's my money. Let me teach you a good business. I said, and I gave him a total cost of how much we spent in the bottles and everything. And then I took my capital and he looked at me like that, this is me. I said, no, it's not. That these, and so early education, so you understand why a number of these things better. So your decision to expose them this early will serve them well as they grow. The earlier the better. They will build resilience. When they do projects and they fail, they will come to realize that, oh, life is not a straight path. And that's the truth about business too, that you have to have that resilience to keep going, even in the face of adversity. So the earlier you introduce them, the better equipped that they are. So you're on the right path, sir.
Between profit and service for you now, I'm talking to you now, between profit and service, okay? You are doing well, you are speaking to us. We are of a particular strata in society. I know that there are certain people, locals, really local business people, who are listening to you now. And they don't have access, they don't have the opportunity, you know, ordinarily for them to come and get these courses and all of that. So how do you now service the low of the low to guide them in business? Service as a service, not necessarily as a profit for you now. How do we service that?
So I think that question is so easy to answer. When we were talking about customer groups, I explained about the priorities of different groups. And there has to be a clear distinction on what we are doing and the direction that we're moving in. For me selling a service, I sell very strongly. My brand is positioned very strongly to sell to corporations, not just corporations, high-end corporations. And that's because that's the positioning that we have taken. Now, talking about service, through a CSR initiative, we could extend our programs to those that cannot afford it. But then, sir, you have to make that distinction. You have to make that distinction. We are a profit for profit making. And then that distinction is clear. So when we're serving our target market, it is indeed for profit making. But through our CSR initiative, we can then offer a section of our service to those that do not have. But there are two different things. Don't even mix them up.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, this is Eagle 7 Sports Radio. I gave you some telephone numbers. We are quickly running out of time. I wonder if we can take any calls at all because I still have one or two questions to ask. But, okay, what are the things you must never do? You must never do in business. You know, say this one, don't even venture, don't start. Like
there is one that for me that sticks out like a sore thumb. And that is, don't make a promise to the customer that you know that you cannot fulfill. In simple terms, sir, if you are selling something and then you say that this delivers a value, please ensure that you have tested that product or services, and then the product or service has the capacity to deliver that value. The long-term effect of if you offer something and it does not deliver, you will build a reputation and then it will stick very strongly. That, unless you are in the business for a one-time transaction, it is, I always call it, it's commercial fraud. Sometimes you know in your heart of heart that this product does not have the capacity to deliver this utility or this value. And then if you are in for the long haul, don't ever put any product out there that you are not certain that it will deliver what you have said it will. it will eventually ruin you. And I had that experience. So when I was transitioning, before I started working, where I was working, we had an idea that we're going to help people get jobs through training. We started with good intention, and we had a partnership with an organization. I don't want to mention it. We had a partnership with an organization, and then they told us they were going to absorb about almost 500 of our students, and they now gave us confidence. But then they were applying for a telecommunications license at the time. So they wanted us to start all their workforce through our training program. Then this was what happened. They didn't get the license, and then we had advertised in the dailies and everywhere that join this training and it's going to guarantee you employment. What followed through was that we had almost about 600 students coming. In that transaction, I kid you not, sir, we made over 125 million. This was in 2008. Over 125 million. Let me tell you what happened. When the students started coming, we promised they were going to get jobs.
Yeah.
And we did not deliver on that promise. And that promise was also hinged on the fact that we had a partnership with a company that was going to absorb all the students. It became a failed promise. AFCC cases, ICPC cases, we had so many police cases. The company eventually folded on its success. It was not that there was no money. The business made money, but the business could not fulfill its promise to the. So don't ever, ever promise what you cannot deliver.
Wow. You want to go into business? What is rule one? What you must do. What you must do. Rule one. Without that one, don't even start.
I think it's something that you have said, but you did not know that it is a golden rule. You must be prepared to fail. I'm telling you, you must be prepared to fail. You must come to enjoy the process of doing something, not working, and then starting it over again. You have to have a strong mindset that there are no guarantees on this path. So if you have that mindset that failure is part of the journey, then it is difficult for you to be beaten. It is difficult for you to be. It's not anything about business school here. It is first the entrepreneurial mindset that failure is part of this journey, and then you must enjoy it. You must find a way to enjoy it. I tell my people, family, friends around me, that if you pick in this world, and I'm saying to you, Chief, now, that if you pick 10 most happiest people on this planet, I will be top 10. It is not because I'm the wealthiest. It's not because I don't have issues, but it's because I've come to learn a fundamental principle in life, that everything that happens to me is a season. Sometimes the season favors me, and sometimes it doesn't. And with that mindset, even when I'm in a season that does not favor me, I am not perturbed. All I just tell myself is that, oh, this is that season. My good season is coming. I had a fantastic week this week that passed. I loved my experience with the Stay Left group. But I know that it's not always like that. There are some times so that it might not play out that way. So my rule one to anyone is that you must embrace failure as part of the journey.
This has been a fascinating conversation this morning with Adeola Badmus, and we couldn't even take any call. So, and it is time to go. But I will give you the opportunity, just on your final words and your final thoughts, help us round off the show today. And after that, I will thank you very much for what you have done. So your final thoughts, your final words to us this morning.
So I will say this. That business largely is the business success ties very strongly to the strategic choices that you're making. And strategy are the decisions or choices you have chosen or you are making to win. When we talk about winning, we should have something called a winning aspiration. When you look at the venture in front of you, have an aspiration of what you want the venture to look like when it's successful. But please ensure that that aspiration should be something that is bigger than you. When the aspiration is huge, then it will fuel you to give it all that you want to do. There are no guarantees in business, but if you follow a model, you are less likely to have so many failures. That will be my closing statement.
Well, I assure you, this is not a promise that will not be fulfilled. I assure you that I'm going to get a lot of inquiries as to how to connect with you and how to benefit from your experiences and your knowledge, and I will make the connections. And as I go also into my own new mission, which was fueled by my experiences with you in the past 3 days, I will ensure that I drop your name with all those little children that will be given an opportunity to venture into your world of business. On behalf of all of them, I want to thank you, Adeola Badmus of Piston and Fusion Business Academy, for coming on this morning's show to come and energize us, to inspire us, to make us dream big and to become big business people in this world. So on behalf of everybody, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for the opportunity to share this space with you, sir.
Well, that's all we're going to have time for today. It is time to go. This is Eagle 7 Sports Radio. Mathematical, 90 minutes has come and gone. So join me again next week, Saturday, when we bring you another package. Bye for now.
Exciting news from Airpeace. We're taking your London trip to the next level. More pleasurable, convenient, and affordable than ever. From January 20th to February 20th, 2025, you have an opportunity to grab amazing promo deals during our exclusive sale period as you travel in style from January 20th to March 31st, 2025. Economy fares starting at just 1.2 million naira and business class luxury at 4.5 million naira on our Lagos to London routes. Step into elegance aboard our luxurious Boeing 777s and enjoy spacious comfort, gourmet meals, and premium service, all designed to make your journey unforgettable. What are you waiting for? Book now at flyairpeace.com or download the Airpeace app from the Play Store or App Store. Airpeace, your peace is our goal.